This show contains movie spoilers and swearing.
Here's Johnny.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Bitesize Cinema. I'm your host RJ McCready, and for this episode I'm going to be talking about a horror classic going back to 1980, and that is The Shining. So I thought it'd be good to do a movie like that, especially for the horror season being October. And joining me today for the show, it's been a little while, is the international man of mystery himself. Some say that he was once bitten by a snake, and after a few days, the snake died. So there you go. It's the man of mystery. It's Kung Fu Dave.
hello, everybody. Hello. It's been a while, hasn't it, since I've been on the show? But
it's been a long
time.
Back,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a long time, mate. It's
back.
And I think I messaged you and I said, we should, pick a horror movie, and you've picked The Shining. So
what a film!
Yeah, I couldn't think of a better movie, mate. So. Yeah. Shall we jump onto a trailer, mate, and jump onto this?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the Overlook Hotel. Let's go to that isolation. We will play you guys a trailer, and we will be back soon.
I don't suppose they told you anything in Denver about the tragedy we had up here during the winter of 1970? Well, a man named Charles Grady is the winter caretaker. And he came up here with his wife and two little girls, I think about 8 and 10. From what I've been told, he seemed like a completely normal individual. But at some point during the winter, he must have suffered some kind of a complete mental breakdown. He ran amok and killed his family with an axe.
You can rest assured, Mr. Ullman, that's not going to happen with me.
Mom? Yeah? Do you really want to go and live in that hotel for the winter?
Sure I do. It'll be lots of fun.
Yeah, I guess so.
For some people, solitude and isolation can of itself become a problem.
What you did? They killed you and Danny.
You did this to me. Didn't you? How could you? How could you?
Here's Johnny.
And welcome back. So the synopsis of this film is a fairly long synopsis, so bear with me. A family heads to an isolated hotel for winter, where a sinister presence influences the father into violence, while his psychic son sees horrific forebodings from both past and future. It was made in 1980. It's got 8.4 on IMDb, which is very high. And it's got a runtime of 2 hours. Well, in Europe it was a 2-hour runtime, and internationally it's got a 2.5 hour runtime. So depending on which cut you have a look at. So, Dave, The Shining.
Yeah. What a film.
Yeah. When did you first watch this film?
Probably in 2005.
Yeah.
I think I was at school. Someone mentioned, you need to watch this film called The Shining. I'm a bit younger than you, RJ, so...
Oh, yeah, chuck that one in there.
And I was a bit younger then, but I was probably about 2005, and someone said, it's a terrifying film. sort of getting into horror films back then, and I watched it and I thought, God, what a mind fuck, eh? Honestly,
Yes,
what
it
an
is.
absolute mind fuck that film is.
So let's before I tell you about what I think about this film, just out of interest, because you watched this in 2005, and as you just said, you're a bit younger than me, so it's like a father and son conversation that we're having today.
You're not that old, Neil.
No, I know. I'm just jesting, mate. I'll take you down the sweet shop.
You're going to be back buying my first pint as well.
Yeah. Oh dear. So what I'm interested to find out here is what other horror films had you been introduced to before you watched The Shining? Just out of curiosity, is there anything that comes to mind?
I think, well, it was modern films back then. I mean, do you remember a film called The Dreamcatcher?
Well, that's funny enough, that's a Stephen King adaptation, I think, isn't it? I think Dreamcatcher, yeah.
That was a bit crazy, wasn't it? It was those sort of films, like sort of, it's got a lot of visual kind of interpretation for you to work out yourself.
Yeah.
I really sort of got gripped into it when I watched that film because The Dreamcatcher was odd. Some odd scenes, and it was all it was all to do with the mind, wasn't it? And,
yeah.
And some sort of entity that was, yeah, God, I can't really explain it to be honest. But yeah,
well, this is it. I mean,
mind.
it's interesting what you said. You picked the Dreamcatcher film, which is, I'm sure it's a King adaptation. Pretty sure it is. But again, you mentioned like there's an entity in the film, and this is quite a common thing with King novels. Is there's usually some type of entity, and you got Christine, haven't you, with the car? Yeah. So you got some sort of entity that's possessed the car, but you don't. Possibly there's a dead body in the back of that car that's possessing it, and then you've got like Carrie with the telekinesis thing. So there's always this hidden entity in these movies, and like I say, obviously with The Shining, you do come away with that. I mean, for me, what I'd say is with The Shining is I didn't watch it until I was in my late teens, so I was a little bit of a latecomer to this film. And on the lead up to that, I'd watched films like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Return of the Living Dead, even stuff like American Werewolf in London, which were big hitters, Night of the Living Dead. And what I'm going to say here with those films is that you know what the badness, or you know what the antagonist is in that film. So with Nightmare, you've got Bon Appetit, Freddy. But they're, and they're good films, and they've also got really good soundtracks, and they're very sort of punk, and you come away with a lot of nostalgia for it. So then when I watched The Shining, I was like, what the hell is this film? You know what I mean? Yeah. I was like, initially I wasn't really taken to it, but later on, as I've rewatched it, I've then come away and I thought, actually, no, this is a clever film. Because it's about isolation, and like you said, someone going mad, and it is really, when you look at it, it's a puzzle, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it still confuses me now when I watch it, and I'm always sort of, after I watch it, I mean, I've probably seen it about 10 times, but after I watch it, I always try and research really what is going on with this film. I mean, there's so many sort of metaphorical. How to explain it? It's the whole thing is a metaphor, isn't it? I think. Yeah. I mean, the other night when I watched it, it was someone wrote an article on the internet. It was about it sort of representing someone's brain. This hotel representing someone's brain, and they've done something wrong, and it's had like an impact on their mental health, and it's essentially made made them go a bit sort of stir crazy.
Yeah.
Want for a better word, but which I can understand that as a metaphor, because sort of isolation and being a bit lost and a bit confused about what's happened, and then it ending badly for obviously Jack Nicholson, and it's strange. It's a strange, really strange film, but amazing at the same time. It always gives off some kind of new approach to what the story is trying to say. If you get my drift.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that can depend on what mind state you're in at the time.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you can watch The Shining if you, I don't know, even if you've had an bereavement or something, or you're feeling a bit shit about something, or something's happened in your life, and at that point you could watch The Shining and probably interpret it in some ways. I think that's what's clever about this film. So you could probably do an experiment and have 10 people in the room and put them in booths and watch The Shining, and then get a piece of paper and say, write your interpretation down. Yeah. And everybody would write possibly something different to how they've watched this film. And I think that's what I was trying to say, is what separates this from the other some of the other mainstream horror films, is, for example, Nightmare on Elm Street. You've got Freddy Krueger, who is fucking psychopath in that movie, and generally you know where you're going with that. But with this film, it can go down lots and lots of different avenues. I.e., with the telekinesis, Jack Torrance's character, who's very steadily going mad, and then obviously his wife, who's like the suffering wife. So it's almost like a type of domestic abuse as well here, isn't there? In some ways, for her. And then of course you've got, like you said, you've got the hotel itself, which is kind of like a puzzle box, isn't it? And I like what you said there, where it's almost like being inside someone's head.
Yeah.
And I'd say you're in Jack Torrance's head with the Overlook Hotel, and the actual name of the hotel, the Overlook, is probably some sort of metaphor for something where something's being overlooked. Whether that's Jack Torrance's head.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah.
And then when
that's a really good way.
And then there's there's some scenes in it where there's a really good documentary called Room 237, which really cuts all this down. They're even talking about scenes where Jack and his wife and his son go to the hotel and he's having a meeting with the manager, and the actual meeting room doesn't correspond with the hotel. So when you look at a back window, it shouldn't actually be there. And then there's pieces of furniture which are kind of interpretations to other things.
Right.
So they do mention, this is worth mentioning as well, they say that the hotel was built on an Indian graveyard, American Indian graveyard. So there could be a reference there to spirits that are unsettled because of obviously what's happened in the past on the American turf. Which is something else which has been brought up in other films a little bit later on, which is the film Poltergeist, Indian graveyard.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, that was a bit crazy, that film as well.
yeah, exactly.
A crazy tree going mental. Yeah, I can see where they got that from, to be honest.
Hell of a movie. But again, what's different about Poltergeist is that the audience knows that there is a spiritual entity, which they kind of. I think you get on board with that quite quick with that movie, don't you? With the chairs moving around and. Then, like I say, with this film, as soon as you open that door to something like that, it then leads you down to another place. And I suppose that's the other thing here, isn't it? Where there's so many sort of different rooms that you go into in the hotel. It's you think it's one thing, and then it goes on to another, doesn't it? I mean, you've got that. I mean, I'm going to jump around with this film. I'm not going to do it. Anybody listening, guys, I'm not going to do this one in chronological order today.
I don't think we can we? It's a bit mad.
No, and I think that's kind of apt for. I think that kind of works for the episode because talking about The Shining, you should never really put it into any order. It just depends to see where you end up.
Yeah.
But there's a bit with Wendy at the end of the movie where very randomly sees a guy in a bear costume. Possibly giving a bloke a blowy,
I was a little bit confused by that bit. Yeah, I was like, what? Yeah, and he had his bum out, didn't he?
Yeah. And I would like to add, there's a guy on the Legion page called Darren Wilson that's used that several times with photoshops to. Just with other fellow podcasters, one being I think it was one called Psyops from Cinema Psyops who listens to this show. So yeah, every time I see that, I can't unsee that now. Sorry, Colt, I know you listen to the show. I'll just give you a little shout out there. So yeah, I mean, even that it's. 1 minute you're petrified, and then it kind of just chucks something like that just gives you a little bit of a chuckle, and you're kind of, what the hell,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. These obviously all these rooms they've got in the hotel are printed with various different movies, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's probably what that scene is trying to envisage. But over the course of the film, the people that, well, Jack Nicholson and Wendy and what's the little boy called? Doc, isn't it?
Danny. You're talking about Danny, yeah.
They call him Doc, don't they? They just sort of, it's all hunky-dory at the beginning, and then just throughout the film they just see different things, don't they?
Yeah.
Just gets worse and worse and worse and worse until it all goes shit tits up, and yeah. But that bit, I mean, it's like that old wrinkly woman in the room 237, isn't it? Because she's a really fit, stunning woman, comes out the bath, and Jack Nicholson's like, "Oh my god, look at this! I'm in for a treat here."
Yeah.
And then he goes to kiss her, and good lord, doesn't she change?
See, I think there's something in this for everybody to creep someone out. And that actually creeped me out the most. That's the one that sort of made me go, ugh.
Yeah.
Because could you imagine that? Could you imagine actually, kissing a beautiful woman like that, just come out from a bath, and all of a sudden she turns into a woman who's been, decomposed. And, I'm just thinking, oh my God, that's terrible. That is fucking awful. So for me, that creeped me out, and then like say you got all the other, you got some haunting bits in here as well. With you mentioned Danny. I mean that the child actor in this. Funny enough, his name is called Danny in real life, Danny Lloyd. Well, what an incredible performance for. I'm figuring he's probably about 8 years old.
I know.
I can't see him.
I was really amazed, to be honest. Like, I don't think I've seen a film with a kid that young.
No,
doing so well. I'm not too sure what has he done anything since then, or is he?
I don't think he has. I should have researched that. I don't think he has. He's not like some, because it's not like I've seen other films and people said, that's the kid from The Shining. Yeah, he's very, like I say, for an actor at his age, the way he's put that character onto screen, even with the sort of talking about Tony, isn't it? What does Tony think? He's talking, and it's like.
Oh yes, and he starts going, bah, bah, doesn't he? And he's got the finger.
Yeah.
I just googled him, and he was only in 4 films since. Starring in The Shining, but he did a cameo appearance in Doctor Sleep. Which
Okay, right.
Okay. He was in apparently he was in a crowd as a spectator at the baseball game in Doctor Sleep, but
okay.
that's it. I mean, it's a shame, really. He probably could have gone on to, be quite a star, but maybe,
but then I suppose if you've done a film like this, what more do you need to do? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, this is, for the rest of your life, you can say, "Yep, I was that kid in The Shining," and people go, most people that you talk to know about this film. But the other actor you got in this, just to go through it, Scatman Crothers, who plays Holloran, and he's really good in this because he brings a lot to the table in terms of what is actually going on with Danny, and you find out at the beginning, don't you? The Shining, that he calls it. It's a type of telekinesis, and I heard you mention the Doctor Sleep movie. I haven't seen that, but what I do know about, I don't know, have you watched that movie?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
I think there's mixed reviews on it in the sort of horror community, but
yeah, sure.
I thought it was really good. A really good story. It's definitely worth a watch if you've not seen it, RJ. But
I really ought to have seen that before I'd done this review. But I think in some ways I just wanted to focus my central, mind onto this. But what I've heard is that because this film is about past, present, and future, and it's about Danny is actually the Tony character is actually himself from the future, trying to help him out and warn him of the danger.
Okay, right. I was always a little bit confused about Tony because he was telling him, he was looking after him, wasn't he, towards the end?
Yeah.
You sort of painted this picture. Stanley Kubrick made out sort of Tony was a bad guy, wasn't he, at the beginning, and then everyone was a bit sort of spooked about him. But yeah, he was helping him, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he could either be, like I just said, with either himself in the future, telekinesing himself as an adult to warn him, or it could just be a separate entity, like a spirit in the Overlook Hotel that's trying to warn him. But the other thing, obviously, to mention here is the actual director himself, as you just mentioned, Stanley Kubrick. This is common thread for him as well, isn't it? He hasn't done a lot of films, but the films that he's done have a certain tone or some type of message to them, don't they? Full Metal Jacket, Clockwork Orange, 2001: A Space Odyssey. So he kind of brings his own sort of signature to the film. Yeah,
he is sort of, the word is probably quite quirky. He's a quirky director, isn't he?
Yeah.
I don't think you get films like what he's made now. They're sort of a different, almost a different kettle of fish. Kubrick films, really. I mean, and you could, but if you didn't know what the director was for this film and you watched it, and you had a bit of a knowledge of Stanley Kubrick, you'd say it was done by him.
Yeah.
Because the quirkiness of it and the avenues that go down with it, it's an infinite amount, I think.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about this the other day when I watched this, and I did notice a tie-in with the Jack Torrance character from this, with talking about Saving Private Ryan. Full Metal Jacket, Saving Private Ryan. Jesus. Yeah. Too many jelly donuts for you, Private Paul. But talking about Private Paul, when you look at his character in, you've seen Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah,
obviously, yeah. When you look at Private Paul's character, he starts off as like the underdog, and then he kind of gets stripped apart, and then by the end of it, and this is a spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen that film, he is turned into, he's almost got like a demonic face on him when he's in the toilet and he's about to kill the drill sergeant, because you look at his face and he's like going, "This is my rifle," and he has completely changed from when you first see him to that point. And I kind of see that as the same as Jack Torrance, you know, when he starts out with this. And then to the end of the film, even his facial expressions, you know, he's like, here's Johnny, you know, like going through the door.
That's a classic, that, isn't it? It's a classic line,
it's you know, and it's the same with Clockwork Orange, where you've got the psychopathic character, and I can't remember his name now, McDowell character, but he's kind of done like a little bit of a reverse role where they've tried to bring him from being a psychopath to trying to get him into, you know, I suppose you could say trying to be a normal person with what they put him through. So Kubrick is kind of playing with that character role of, you know, development and stuff. So there's kind of like a signature that I've seen in his filmmaking and storytelling.
Is it Alex Delage? It's Alex, isn't it? Is his name in Clockwork Orange? His name's Alex.
Is that his name? Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that, but yeah, that's another. That's another fucked
mental
up movie. Oh my god! Let's not even get into that right now. But yeah, but yes, but yeah. And the other thing, talking about Jack Nicholson in this film, you know, what an amazing performance he puts in this as well. He was at the top of his game, and that's the other thing. You've got Jack Nicholson. You've got Stanley Kubrick, and you've also got Stephen King. Three people who were at the top of their game at this time. But yeah, just going back to Nicholson, it's very evident that you can see I can see now why he ended up going on to play the Joker in 1989. You know, with his facial expressions, and he's just a hell of a great actor. Yeah,
he is incredible, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, wasn't it? He was fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's what bagged him the role for the Shining. I think a few other actors that were in line was Robert De Niro.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, could have seen him play this character as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I could see Robert De Niro doing that, but I think Jack Nicholson, in terms of like the psychological aspect of the film, I think he was probably the best pick for it, to be honest. Just because he sort of plays a lot of different personalities, doesn't he, in The Shining, and I'm not sure De Niro probably could have done that. But yeah, I definitely think he was the best pick.
Well, when I've
and luckily they picked him. You know, look how well the film did. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. I mean, you know, with Jack Nicholson, if Jack Nicholson just happens to be listening to this show,
if you're listening, Jack, hello.
I do apologise, but he does come across as a slightly unhinged character himself when you look at him.
What, in real life?
Yeah. You know, I'm just saying, it's just when you look at the roles that he's played, he's just got that, his eyes particularly, and there's that scene when he's looking out the window in this film and he's just staring and he's looking down and his eyes are just saying everything. And I've seen him do that before in other movies, you know, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Batman. He's just got that sort of face that and it must be a gift to actors where you can just use your face as an expression and not saying anything, but it's saying everything at the same time. And I think that's what his character can do, or him as an actor can do in this film.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. He's just so... Well, he's just a clever actor, isn't he?
Yeah.
Very clever.
And then you've got Shelley Duvall in this as well, who's probably the only character here who is kind of just going on about her business, isn't she, in this hotel? So obviously Jack's going mad. Danny's got the psychokinesis, but then Wendy is really caught in the middle of all this, isn't she? Do you know what I mean?
She's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, God bless her heart. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, she's trying to sort of get some sleep in bed, and all of a sudden her 8-year-old kid's walking up going, red rum, you know what I mean?
Yeah, carrying a machete.
I mean, you know, red rum. Oh, fucking hell. You know.
Oh my lord. Imagine that in real life. God.
Yeah.
But she's almost like the glue, isn't she, between them two, to be honest?
Yeah, I think that's right. She's definitely that. She's definitely
I mean,
the glue.
I don't think she's portrayed as a particularly strong character, as in her sort of personality, but she is, isn't she? At the end of the day, she's like she saves the day, essentially, doesn't she?
Well, she does. Yeah, she does come through at the end, but she is. You kind of feel for her, don't you? Because I think that's the other thing with this film is she is the one who I would say is the protagonist in this film, but she is dealing with it the way that I think most of us would.
Yeah.
If we're completely honest with ourselves, and I kind of like that in a film where most films you get a protagonist who is very strong, possibly got some sort of form of experience from the past, whether that's like ex-army or ex-police officer or something, and they can deal with these types of situations. But with her, she's vulnerable. You know, she's a parent, so I think as a parent, I think there's a lot of people that can relate to this character. And let's face it, if you were sort of isolated in a hotel like this with someone like Jack running around, I think you would be going, oh shit, you know, what the fuck am I going to do, you know? And I think that's what really sort of reaches out to people, you know, because it's not like you can just run into the next town, because the other thing, it's snowing outside as well, isn't it? So you just can't get away. The snowmobile's been chopped up.
He destroys the radio, doesn't he?
Destroys the radio, yeah.
Yeah, it's just stuck in there. It's like, it was almost like last 2 years, really, isn't it?
yeah. Yeah, well, this is it. Yeah, that's right.
Last 2 years in a film is The Shining.
Yeah. Yeah, 2020. Yeah.
They should rename it 2020, shouldn't they?
The Overlook Hotel. Also to mention here, there's some great camera shots. Beautiful camera shots, especially at the beginning. I think they flew over the mountains of Montana. Some of the lakes, and then you got that score as well.
Yeah, who wrote that? It's really cool, isn't it?
Yeah. There's also a conspiracy theory with this film as well, which is the Apollo 11 conspiracy theory.
All right. I've not heard this. This is interesting.
Right, so whether you believe it or not, did we go to the moon or not? You know, back in 1969, well, we'll put it out there to people's own sort of conclusions. But in this film, apparently Stanley Kubrick, sort of people say that Stanley Kubrick actually directed the moon landing. Okay, right.
Oh, right.
And it kind of makes sense with that. I don't think he did. I'll put that card on the table, but I can see why people might have this conspiracy theory. It's because he did 2001: A Space Odyssey. A lot of people say that he possibly did the same thing for the Apollo moon landing, that they didn't go. And it's basically Kubrick putting this film together and just chucking in a reference to say that I didn't. And he uses it with the scene with Danny when he goes to room 237. Right. And he's wearing a jumper with Apollo 11 on it. And when he goes to the room, apparently 237 is the distance to the moon from the Earth, 237,000 miles.
Wow.
And then when you look at room was it room number, when you reverse that, it's basically no moon. So no moon, I didn't go to the moon, or I didn't do this, or so it's just apparently some sort of him basically just chucking that one in as a
okay,
for
well,
the
like
audience.
a bit of a hint almost.
Yeah. So there you go. I've chucked that one in there. So it's one of those conspiracies with everything else. So yeah, like I say, it can take you down several different sort of directions with this. And the other thing I was going to say is there's I don't think there's any other film like this when I thought about it, but I think there's a lot of films that have certainly seen this film and taken bits from it. So the other film that came out like a couple of years later, which is one of my favourite movies, is obviously The Thing. John Carpenter's Thing, and you still got that sort of isolation in that movie, which I like. I like films with isolation in it and a group of characters that go, what the fuck's going on? And then spring forward into that, you've also got Toy Story, which have made references to this as well. So yeah, it's when you look at other films, there are other parts of The Shining in it.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. Yeah, it's a film that people probably can pick, or directors especially can pick, bits from and use, because it's so cleverly made.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you interpret this film anyway? How would you interpret it after watching it the other day? Because I watched it yesterday. How you personally? How would you interpret it?
Yeah, bit like how you just mentioned it. I think it is about someone who is starting to go crazy over something. Someone who starts off normal, and certain events have led you to becoming that person by the end of it. And it's like with Jack, he just goes mad.
Yeah.
And I think I like what you said, where it's like what goes on in that head. Really, you know what I mean? It's like what can a lot of us say goes on in our mind sometimes, and that can be whether it's to do with a stressful situation or a happy situation, isn't it? You know, and I think a lot of it is where you can probably go quite deep with this, where I suppose the mind is like going down corridors and going past doors, and I suppose it's depending on which door you're going to pick to go into. And I think room 237 is a door that Jack or nobody really wants to go into, because if you open that door, it's going to bring up something nasty from the past. And I think the interpretation for me with this film is that possibly Jack is someone who's been in this hotel before in the past, which is very evident to the end scene, isn't it? Going back to that picture of him in 1921, and it's almost like as if he's been born again or something like that, and he's gone. This hotel's brought him back just to remind him what he's done. And yeah, it's
I mean that threw me as well at the end, because obviously when he's having a drink in the bar, he goes to the toilet, doesn't he, and he meets the chap who killed his family.
Yeah, that's right. Charles Grady, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, O'Grady. Yeah, and he says, "Oh, you've always been here." And it's like, what? And then obviously at the end there's that picture of him in at the ball, isn't there?
That's right. Yeah.
Tuxedo. But that threw me as well. I was like, God, how can I put that in with what's happened? Is it like a continuous loop of what's been going on?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could say that he is actually in purgatory.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you talk about heaven and hell, and then the bit in between, which is the purgatory, which is like he's in that place where either heaven and hell can't decide which place you're going to go to, and he's been put into the court for the judge and jury to decide, and for him to be able to sort of do that, he's got to go through this again and be reminded. And like you say, there's that great scene. That's worth bringing up actually. The bit of the bar where he goes into the room and he looks at the bar, and initially the bar's unstocked, isn't it? There's nothing there. But then when he goes up to it, you've got the barman, which is fully stocked. And then when Jack goes to get some money out to pay for the bourbon, the barman then comes out and says, that's no good here, that currency's no good. And it's almost as if Jack is paying for it in another way, whether he's like possibly selling his soul or something like that, you know, for this drink. Could the barman possibly be the sort of entity in disguise, or the devil, or whatever, you know, however you want to interpret it?
That's definitely another avenue to go down, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And the other thing I saw with this Bond, it's all about scenes where other films are taken. I watched this and I thought, Jesus, this looks like a scene from Passengers with Chris Pratt. Do you remember that movie?
Oh yeah, that's a good film, that is, isn't it?
But
we watched that a few weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah, that's it. I mean,
yeah.
Do you remember that scene when he's sat at the bar with was it this
Michael Sheen?
Michael Sheen and Michael Sheen. And I just looked at it and I thought, oh my God, has Passengers ripped a little bit of The Shining? Because and then when I thought of it, I thought actually Chris Pratt is actually kind of going crazy himself on this ship by himself, isn't he? You know, and it's an isolation film, isn't it? You know, so I thought,
I think you want something here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because it's like a futuristic Shining, isn't it? That film,
the Passengers film. Yeah, when you look at it,
because he obviously fucks it all up by waking up that Jennifer Lawrence, isn't he? And and it goes Pete Tong.
Yeah, and then I always thought there was something wrong with the Michael Sheen barman character. I always thought he was a bit sort of suspicious in that, you know, just a bit creepy. So yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
You stumped me there.
Do you need a moment? Do you want a moment?
I'm just having a brain fuck up now. I've gone mad.
I can always pause the show, mate. Do you know what I mean? The power of editing.
No.
You want to go away, sit down, have a 20-minute break, get yourself a drink.
I need a whiskey.
Go get yourself a bourbon or whatever. So yeah, I did notice that. So it's very clever film, and I don't think, even with discussions, and I'm sure many people have done this, who are fans of this film, have sat down either on a train or down the pub or at home or had a cup of tea or down the coffee shop and said, "Oh, have you seen The Shining?" It's a good chance you're gonna spend a bit of time trying to work it out. You know, people are going to have different interpretations of this film.
We could sit here all day, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
We could sit here for like 10 hours and, you know, dissect every part of that film and try and work it out. But I don't think you'll ever get an answer.
No, and I think that's what... and there's no pun in this. I actually overlooked... Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So as a person watching this film, funny enough, the name of the hotel is the Overlook. Is as an audience, I think you can... The purpose of this film is you actually overlook what's going on. Do you know what I mean? So that's a little bit of food for thought. So it's Kubrick basically saying that you'll watch this film, but you won't necessarily be able to sort of tie it all up. And maybe that's the purpose of it, is he just made this clever film where the audience are going to go, what the fuck? And then I think that's very clever in itself to be able to do that and then let the audience go away and then talk about it, and you've pretty much got yourself a horror mystery which you can dissect and talk about and try and get to a conclusion. As soon as you think you've got to a conclusion, another door opens up, and again that's the other thing. It's almost like as the audience you are walking through those corridors and opening doors up, and the door leads you to another room. So that is this film technically, isn't it?
And the whole, you know what, it's really clever as well, the concept of the maze as well.
Oh, yeah, we've got to mention that. So, yeah, the maze. Yeah, glad you brought that.
Because is that like a, another metaphor for this film? Like, because you're never going to find the answer to it. Like, you would never in a maze.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe you stuck a maze in the hotel. I mean, I don't know many hotels that have got mazes now. But,
well, if I do find one, I'll be a little bit worried about it.
I think you'll be getting a refund.
I'll be looking on the old .com or TripAdvisor later. Hotel with a maze. Oh dear. But yeah, so there you go. That is The Shining. Dave, I can't think of anything. Is there anything that we've missed? We probably have. We've mentioned the famous scene with the door, haven't we, with the axe going through it, which is probably one of the most iconic scenes in horror history, isn't it?
That is a legendary scene, isn't it? Absolutely.
Oh, the twins. Oh, I forgot to mention the twins,
yes,
aren't they? Chanel.
Obviously, the daughters of Mr. O'Grady, isn't it?
O'Grady, yes, that's right. Yeah,
his daughters. I mean, they were the first sort of thing that Danny sees.
Yeah.
The first sort of paranormal thing that he sees in the film, to make you wonder what the fuck's going on here. And then the blood as well that was coming up the elevator.
Ah, yes, that's right. Yes, yeah, that's it.
Which I don't really know what that means. I mean, it probably just signifies that there's something bad going on in the hotel. But
yeah, I think that goes back to the fact that the hotel has been built on ground where blood has been spilt.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of references the slaughter of the American Indians in the history or whatever, So I think that's got something to do with that.
Right.
So it's basically saying that the hotel's been built on slaughtered ground where there's sacred ground where there's blood that's been spilt. And then, like I say, with the two girls, I mean, it's something where it's quite innocent. Two girls, they're dressed quite nicely, aren't they, as if they're going to go to a party. But you put them at the end of a corridor with a little kid on his, and you just, fucking hell, that's creeping the shit out of me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like staring at him.
Yeah. And again, it's probably one of those very common things where people go to a hotel. God, you could probably even go to one of our Premier Inns, couldn't you? Do you know what I mean? One of our sort of standard hotels. Go in the corridor, and how many people have gone, oh, this is like The Shining.
Yeah. I think most hotels I go into, I say that. I'm like, oh my god. Even if it's a modern one, I'm like, it's just so iconic, isn't it?
It's probably the most quoted line to anybody going into a hotel, like anybody sort of in a boat going fishing saying, I need a bigger boat. Do you know what I mean? It kind of...
And it's funny you say that, because I actually, when I was away the past few weeks, I stayed in a hotel, and I did go in the hotel, and it was a bit old fashioned, and I did say to a friend of mine, I said, this is like The Shining.
Yeah.
So yeah. Something spooky is going on here, right, Jed?
Oh yeah.
Very spooky.
Yeah,
absolutely. I come back and you're like, yeah, let's do The Shining. I'm like, what? I'm just staying in a hotel that looks like The Shining.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you did. I'm really glad you did, because sitting here talking about this film today, I think that is the power of The Shining. I think it's a film that works really well if you talk about it, to somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to try and work it out, is to have that discussion about it. And I think that's testament to a film. I mean, there's a lot of films out there that you can watch and it just is what it is, and you go away and it's forgettable. But I think as a film director, if you create a film where people are puzzled and they're thinking, oh, hang on a second, I think that's testament to the actual creator itself. You've created some sort of masterpiece here, where people
I think
are
you're
still
right.
guessing.
And people are still talking about it like we're talking about it today. I mean, this is made in the 80s, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
God, 30 odd, 40 years ago, isn't it? 30 odd years ago. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like we're still talking about what the hell's going on with this film today.
Yeah,
so.
and I think it will just
Just continue.
Yeah, and the thing is, it does as a story, and it's like a blueprint. So for whatever, as decades are changing, The Shining is still fitting in to whatever's changing out there. Do you know what I mean? With technology and stuff like that, The Shining will kind of still form as a blueprint. You know, so all the time I think we've got brains and emotions as a human race.
It won't be long.
Unless we turn into cyborgs, I don't know. But there you go. The other thing I was going to mention here, it's worth mentioning as well, is obviously Stephen King. He wasn't really a fan of this film adaptation or adaptation.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
No. So yeah, he thinks. I mean, I haven't read the book, so he thinks that the movie kind of steers away from the story that he was trying to tell.
Right.
But you know, I guess that's his own opinion on that. Do you know what I mean? I guess if I was a film writer, or if I was a writer and someone turned my book into a movie, we go, yeah, there you go. I'll probably be shallow enough to go, yeah, just throw me a load of money my way. Do what you want with it.
Well, exactly, yeah.
I'll just be shallow. It wasn't really the vision or story I wanted, but it's made me a ton of money. Oh dear. But
he's got loads of money anyway, hasn't he?
He must be loaded, mustn't he? That bloke, I think he writes bloody 2 or 3 pages and it's already been developed into a film, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Most of his books have been developed into a film, haven't they? Like Pet Sematary and Misery and is that Misery?
Yeah, he's done it. Yeah, Misery. It.
Yeah.
He's even the Running Man film. I think there were some of the short stories. A film called Stand By Me. Needful Things. The Stand. Dreamcatcher, like you just said, Christine. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. He even had a go at directing one of his films as well, which is called Maximum Overdrive.
Right.
And
Stephen King tried to direct his.
No, he did. No, he did. He directed his. Check it out on YouTube. It's probably one of the most. It's a funny trailer to a film because you've literally got Stephen King. It's almost like he's having a mock at all his other films. He says, if you need to make a movie, sometimes you've got to do it yourself.
Oh, dear,
yeah.
Is it bad?
Oh, no, not really. I think Maximum Overdrive, I haven't seen it in a long time, but check it out. It's about the trucks that get possessed by, again, like a type of entity, like a is it an asteroid goes over the Earth?
Right.
And it messes about with the magnetic fields and it makes all the machines come alive. So yeah, it's worth checking out. It's got Emilio Estevez in it, who's like a cook. He becomes like a hero. Yeah, so
I mean, he has done loads, hasn't he? Is it the Dark Tower he did as well?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he done the Dark Tower.
Yeah.
I think, like I say, we've mentioned Carrie, which is a really good film. That's another Misery. That's another one of my. That's probably one of my favourites, I'd say, of King adaptations. So yeah, Stephen King. So yeah, like I say, this film's got an awful lot of talent connected to it. You know, like I say, you can read it off. You've got, like I say, Stephen King, Stanley Kubrick. You've got the actors Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall's performance, Danny Lloyd's performance, the camera shots, the music, the tension. You know, and obviously the guessing and all that. So yeah, it's
it's definitely like if I was to rate a film. I mean, I know this is like, but you never normally give 10s, do you? But I would give this a 10 out of 10 for like, as in like a legendary film. I mean, I don't think anyone who's ever seen The Shining said it was bad.
No. Oh,
anyone I know anyway. But I think it's it's probably my favourite horror film or psychological thriller.
Or you could be someone like myself. I think if you wasn't a horror fan, you may not like this film, which is fine. Or you could be someone like myself who is a horror fan, who's watched it, and the shallow man that I am, I just, the shallow 18-year-old that I was watching was just looking for some dude in a ski mask with a fucking knife. You know what I mean? You kind of just went, well, what the fuck is that? He came back to it later on and went, okay, yeah, I do appreciate this film now.
Yeah, I think you've got to have a bit of a sense of maturity, I think, to sort of understand what's going on. But I mean, I'm not saying you don't, RJ, but
no, well, yeah, this is it. Yeah.
Never get old.
Yeah, how you doing, RJ? Well, yeah, I grew up and I like The Shining now. Hair finally grew on my chest and I like The Shining.
You hit puberty.
Oh yeah. Oh dear. So there you go, Dave. I think we've probably gone over everything here. We may have left some stuff out, but there you go. That's podcasting. I'll tell you now. I'll be editing this later on. I'll be going, oh shit, I left that out. So I do apologise.
You'll be calling me back when you say, come on, Dave, we need to start this again.
Dave, can you just jump on and we just need to mention this? I've got to talk about the carpet.
That was a nice sort of 70s colour, wasn't it? A nice beige mustard.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I remember. Yeah, I do actually remember those days. Yeah, it's sort of orange and brown.
Yeah, God. Well, I don't remember that, but I remember seeing it, thinking, "What the hell is that?"
Avocado, bath suite.
Oh God, yeah. I suppose it was, wasn't it? It was a avocado with green, wasn't it? The bathroom, room 237.
Actually, yeah, that's what it was. Actually, yeah. So that's what you said.
Well, I wasn't really paying much attention to the bath, but.
Oh no! Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I did pick up on its colour slightly.
Having another shallow moment there. Yeah, that's the other thing we could mention here just before we sort of close the show is The Shining does feel like a film, even though it's came out in 1980. Of course, it does still feel like a 70s movie. It's got that sort of 70s sort of tinge to it, which I don't know. That's another thing worth mentioning. I don't know what the hell they did in the 70s, but they really had that creepy vibe about them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, was the film meant to be set in the time period it was made?
Got a sneaky feeling it's supposed to be set in 1977.
Right, okay.
That's when the book came out, so I think usually, just looking at the setup, I would say it's probably around about that time. So,
okay.
Yeah, because I couldn't see a Walkman in there with Danny or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? Wasn't playing on Pac-Man or anything like that. I don't know. I didn't see anything like that. So
yeah, it was on some clapped out old tricycle, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right. Which is very sort of 70s the way he was as a kid. So yeah, all right.
Sorry, just before we go, of that shot though when he was on the trike. That looks as if it was one shot, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's the other thing. I think the shots in this are one shot, and that's worth mentioning as well because the actual cameras, they were actually just using a Steadicam.
Yes, that was one of the first films to do it, wasn't it?
Yeah, so you got a long shot which was just continued. And And also, shout out to a fellow podcaster, because I've listened to his show, Chucky Steele from Podcast on Haunted Hill. Remember him saying that he knows someone who's still got the actual Steadicam cage or whatever they used.
What, from that film?
From that film.
Wow.
Yeah. So he lives in Surrey. I can't remember if it was one of the school teachers or something that he went to school with that had that. Because The Shining was actually filmed at Elstree Studios in this country.
Oh, in Borehamwood, is it?
Borehamwood, yeah. So the actual Overlook Hotel was actually built. I think it burnt down by accident or something like that. But yeah, because Kubrick, he very rarely steps out of this country when he makes a film, because I think Full Metal Jacket was all filmed in this country. So there you go. There's a little bit of trivia there for you. Chuck that one in there.
Absolutely, yeah.
So there you go. Oh dear. All right, Dave. Well, listen. Great episode. Really good chat. Really enjoyed this today.
Yeah, cheers, dude. It's always a pleasure to come on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on board.
Yeah.
So the next episode we was looking at doing, I threw the Crow your way, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
So Brandon Lee's The Crow.
Another crazy film.
Well, yeah. So that'll be our next episode. So we'll try and get that recording in October. So yeah, there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope it may have brought something different to the table for you that you may not have thought of before, or you might just be shouting at me and going,
Yeah, probably.
"How the fucking hell did you miss
Some
that?"
enthusiasts out there, you know. Going,
They might be saying, "Oh, hang on a second, he can't be closing the show. He's forgotten to mention this." The fucking hell.
We'll have to do a part 2. I'll probably get some hate mail on the old Facebook group, won't we?
No, that'd be my good friend. I'll give him a shout out. That'd be Darren Randall. I'll give him a shout out for the show. I always do if he listening to this somewhere. So he'll be chuckling right now at that. So you got yourself a podcast, so I'll go, RJ, for fuck's sake. Do your homework. Oh dear. Right, okay guys, well on that note, a little bit of admin for the show. I'm a proud member of the Legion Podcast Network, so please go and check out all the other shows. It's busy on there at the moment because it's Halloween, and Halloween is the Legion Podcast thing because it is a horror network. So please go and check out the shows there. You can find Bitesize Cinema on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, several other players on there. Also check out my other show, is the Mystery Vault podcast. Tell you what, The Shining almost ended up on there as a mystery. Do you know what I mean? It's like it was torn between the two.
Couldn't it? It was a mystery, to be honest.
Yeah.
We'll never solve it.
Yeah. And that's it. Yeah, there you go. That's where it's left me. It's left me thinking, whoa, it's totally fucked my head up, this film. Other shows quickly mentioned. So Kung Fu Dave and I are going to be doing The Crow. I've got Bo Ransell coming back onto the show for Night of the Living Dead, the 1990 remake. And I've also got Boz from Little Pod of Horrors, who's coming on for American Werewolf in London. So I've got a couple of shows that I'll be producing for the horror month, so look out for those. So as always, keep it bite-sized, keep it safe, and I'll see you soon.
If you enjoyed this show, then make sure you check out the other great shows on the Legion Podcast Network, like Cinema Psyops, Cinema Beef, Devour the Podcast, Duncan and Bo Come Correct, Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast, Friday the 13th, Get Slayed, The Hellming Power Hour, Hello, This is the Doom Show, Hero Hero Go Show, Kill the Cast, Underwater Kaiju from Outer Space, Jerry Hates Action, Legion After Dark, Mental Health, Obsessive Cinema, Discourse, Pick 6 Movies, the podcast by The Cemetery, the podcast on Haunted Hill, the Psychosemantic podcast, Rick Radio, House of Wax, Dude Looks Like the 80s, Rabbit and Red Radio, The Shadecast, Short Bus Cinema, 2 Drink Minimum Commentaries, The VD Clinic, Who Will Survive Horror Podcast, and Witch vs. the Doomsday Clock. With such a widespread of shows, there is guaranteed to be a niche for you to fall in love with. Horror, politics, movies, books, sex, music, commentaries, health, video games, kaiju, action, news, comedy, and opinions that would most likely get you killed in some parts of the world. We are proud to bring you some of the best podcasting in the world. Check us out at www.legionpodcast.com, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and any other dark corner of the internet where podcasts can be found.